The struct components are great for handling life cycles, but it can feel a little bit confusing of how you get each of those life cycles to, well, handle data passed back and forth between them. For example, if we have a button in our view and we want to change our internal state when something happens, how do we do that? Let's go ahead and create a click counter, just like we did with our functional component lesson. We're going to do this inside of a struct component to sort of like show this off. I'm going to do this in a molecule here because feels just a little bit bigger than what an atom would be. So we're going to create let's do this, a struct counter. And okay, so first off, we need to bring in Yew. We need to create our struct. Now in this case, we know we want to count something. So let's have just our count be a U32 is going to be fine. It's never going to go less than 0. They're going to import component for our struct counter. Now, our message, we're going to handle that in just a second. For right now, I'm going to leave that at nothing. We don't need any properties for this, so I'm also going to leave that as nothing essentially. When we create this, we need to initialize our account. So that's going to be a self count is going to be 0. Also, I don't need to handle the context at this point in time, so I don't care about that. In our view, I do care about the context here. So actually, no, I don't care about the context at this point in time. I care about self here. So we're going to return HTML. Let's do a div. We'll do a couple lines here. So first of all, we'll have a button. So we'll do click me. And then down here, we'll just have maybe a p tag. And we'll say I have been clicked. Now in this case, we're going to use that self.count times. All right, let's take this struct counter and let's add that into our main library. We can just replace our struct hello right now. It's going to be use components, molecules, struct counter, and then bring that in here. All right, so we have our button. We have I've been clicked 0 times. Now when I click the button, nothing happens, which is to be expected because we haven't hooked anything up yet. But we wanted to get to this part, so now we can talk about messages because we need some way to when we click this button to do something. Well, to begin with, there's the entire onClick event handler. So we know we need to do something at this point in time. But what we're going to do here is perhaps something that doesn't feel quite as like obvious as the functional components. Instead of creating a callback through the U callback that's just provided to us, we're going to use the context. So we can actually do context ctx.link, which then allows us to create a callback um, which then sends a message to the updated event with the updated lifetime event, which we don't have right now, but we're going to. Okay, so in this case, I don't really care about this. I just need to know that it has been clicked. And then whatever I return here has to be of this type message. Right now, this type message is nothing. So we need to change that. So we're going to use an enum. What do we want to call this? Like I guess we'll do this message, and we'll do button clicked. So this now type here becomes message. Let's make this maybe a little bit more obvious. I'm going to do this a struct counter message. Now here I'm going to return struct counter message button clicked. Now this is going to yell at me because it's a private type. Okay, so can't be private. We have to make this public. Okay, so far it's not yelling at me. No errors. And let's go ahead and rerun this and just make sure everything's still okay. Nothing's happening in the console yet. But this message is being sent, but nothing is here to receive it at this point in time. So let's go ahead and add in our function. What is it called? It's update. And here's where we get this message. And we notice that the type is self message, which is this struct counter message. We're going to return that Boolean, which, as we mentioned in the previous video, is going to determine whether or not we're going to re-render the view. So let's first handle the message. So we're going to match message. Okay, so struct counter message, button clicked. What do we do? Well, when the button clicked, we want to update our counter, which we have a mutable reference to self, so we can just do that right now. We can just say self.count plus equals to 1. Now it's yelling at us because we need to return a Boolean here. So I'm just going to go ahead and so the question is, how do I know if I want to return something? Maybe I want to determine like, hey, on this button clicked, it's going to be a true. Maybe it's always true. Let's do this. Let's only return true when this button is clicked, because we might do another method in which we don't want to re-render. So I'm going to return this. I'm going to convert you into a block. And then we're just going to say true. So this is what gets returned out of the out of this block, which then goes to the message, the match, which then goes out to the Boolean here. All right, we still don't need the context for this. If you remember, the context is mostly going to be for accessing properties, or like actually the context, if we have one, being passed in through every single component. Okay, let's now see if everything is working. So we're going to come back to here, and now when I click, it updates. So let's turn this to false here. I click, it is internally updating state, but it's not re-rendering. So that is what that Boolean is doing. So you can do some interesting things here. Like you can basically count like only on odd counts you want to re-render. Maybe you want to like, just take some time and like make sure that many other things happen and then re-render all at once. It gives you a lot of control over that re-rendering process. In this case, it doesn't really make sense. So we're just going to re-render whenever we update this internal state. Anyways, the way we pass these messages back and forth is how we're going to basically handle any data updates, handle the actual click events. You can take this code and create it up here before the HTML because it is just a function. The documentation actually does have that as a suggestion. For this one, I think it's simple enough. All we're really doing is just taking whatever this event is and then just passing it through an enum. And it's an enum. If you have actual information to send, like for example, we want to update by 2, you can pass that in through here. This would be a U32 type, for example. So here we do a button unclick. We're going to pass in 2, let's say. And now, when we're handling this, we're going to get amount coming in, and we can now just increase by the amount. This will now have the button go up by 2 every time we click it. So that's how we can handle passing data in the message as well. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.